swear it will be done.
I thought you were dead once, and it almost destroyed me. I could not bear it if you died again.
The Princess Bride wasn't just a fairy tale romance with sword fights. It was a production plagued by injuries, near-casting disasters, and studio executives who completely misunderstood what they had created. Behind that perfect balance of comedy, adventure, and romance lurked on-set fires that nearly killed cast members, a giant wrestler who couldn't actually lift anything, and a swordmaster who got stabbed for real. The film that would eventually become one of the most quotable movies ever made was initially considered such a disaster that Fox dumped it onto another studio. Today we're diving into 20 weird facts about The Princess Bride that will completely change how you see this beloved classic. And stick around for our bonus fact, the shocking truth about the one scene the director absolutely refused to film no matter how much the studio begged. Let's get started. Rob Reiner faced a 10-year battle to make the film. The Princess Bride wasn't a passion project, it was an obsession. Director Rob Reiner didn't just want to adapt William Goldman's novel, he pursued it relentlessly for an entire decade. What audiences didn't know was that getting the rights was only half the battle. Every major studio in Hollywood rejected the script, believing a genre-bending fairy tale parody would never connect with audiences. Nobody wanted to make it, Reiner revealed. I had meetings with every studio head at the time. They'd say, "This is too weird. Is it a comedy? Is it a love story? Is it an adventure? Who's it for?" The film bounced between 20th Century Fox, who abandoned it mid-development, and finally landed at an indifferent Columbia Pictures, who gave it a meager budget and minimal marketing. The studio's lack of faith became so apparent that Reiner later admitted he feared they would shelve the film completely. Andre the Giant was in excruciating pain throughout filming. The gentle giant who carried heroes up the cliffs of insanity wasn't just playing a character. He was fighting through agony with every scene. Andrei Roussimoff, better known as Andre the Giant, arrived on set already suffering from acromegaly, a condition causing his massive size but also destroying his body from within. What viewers never realized was that Andre filmed every scene in excruciating back pain. His condition had deteriorated so severely that he couldn't actually lift anything heavy, not even Carrie Elwes or Robin Wright. For the climbing scenes, hidden platforms supported his weight while special harnesses and cables held the actors he appeared to carry. Andre was in constant pain, Elwes later revealed in his memoir. He took it like the professional he was, but you could see it in his eyes when the camera stopped rolling. Despite his suffering, Andre never complained once, delivering a performance that became one of his most cherished legacies beyond wrestling. Carrie Elwes got knocked unconscious for real. The sword fights weren't just choreographed, they were dangerous. When Count Rugen, Christopher Guest, knocks Westley unconscious with the hilt of his sword, the scene took a frighteningly real turn. Elwes, determined to make the scene look authentic, encouraged Guest to actually hit him with the sword, just not too hard. "I said, 'Chris, just tap me on the head. Don't worry, I can handle it,'" Elwes recounted. What audiences don't see is that Guest accidentally hit Elwes much harder than intended, genuinely knocking him unconscious. The production shut down temporarily while Elwes was rushed to the hospital. "I woke up in the emergency room with a mild concussion," Elwes wrote. "Rob was there looking rather pale." The irony wasn't lost on anyone that the actor playing the Man in Black, who spends a significant portion of the film mostly dead, had to be revived by medical professionals between takes. The fire swamp almost burned down Robin Wright. The fire swamp sequence wasn't just elaborate set design, it was a death trap. The flames that spontaneously erupted from the ground used real fire and propane controlled by crew members, carefully timing the blasts. During one take, something went catastrophically wrong. Wright's dress caught fire when a flame jet activated at the wrong moment. The thin fabric immediately ignited, threatening to engulf her in seconds. What viewers never saw was the panic that erupted as crew members raced onto the set with fire extinguishers. "It caught the hem of my dress," Wright later revealed. "I felt the heat instantly. If the crew hadn't reacted so quickly..." She never finished that sentence in interviews, but the implication was clear. The incident rattled the entire production so severely that Reiner considered scrapping the real fire effects entirely before ultimately deciding to continue with additional safety measures. Mandy Patinkin channeled his father's death to create Inigo Montoya. The iconic revenge storyline wasn't just compelling screenwriting, it was deeply personal. What most viewers don't realize is that Mandy Patinkin, who played the Spanish swordsman Inigo Montoya, was processing real grief through his character's quest for vengeance. Patinkin's father had died from cancer just a few years earlier, and the actor saw the role as an opportunity to symbolically fight back against the disease that took his father. "When I said, 'I want my father back, you son of a bitch,'" Patinkin revealed years later, "yeah, I was talking to cancer. In my mind, I was killing the cancer that killed my father." This revelation transforms one of cinema's most quoted confrontations into something far more poignant. When Inigo finally faces the six-fingered man, the raw emotion in Patinkin's performance wasn't just acting, it was genuine catharsis that left crew members in tears behind the cameras.
I've never seen a sequel.
Billy Crystal improvised so hard, he made crew members break ribs. The Miracle Max scene wasn't just funny, it was dangerously hilarious. Billy Crystal, cast as the ancient miracle worker, arrived on set with a character voice and mannerisms he'd been developing based on his own elderly relatives. What no one anticipated was just how far beyond the script he would go. "Billy just kept going," Rob Reiner recalled. "We couldn't use most of it because it was too risque for a family film, but we were all dying." The director meant this almost literally. Reiner had to leave the set during filming because his laughter was ruining takes. Even more alarming, one crew member laughed so hard he actually broke a rib. Mandy Patinkin wasn't spared either. "I bruised a rib trying not to laugh," he admitted years later. "There's a moment where you can see me actually biting my cheek." The pain was so severe that Patinkin asked to be alone during some of Crystal's takes to avoid further injury. The emotional and physical toll of suppressing laughter became a genuine health concern. Andre the Giant drank 156 beers in one sitting during production. The gentle giant didn't just have an imposing physical presence, he had a legendary alcohol tolerance that left the entire cast and crew in disbelief. Due to his massive size, standing 7'4" and weighing over 500 pounds, Andre's alcohol consumption reached mythic proportions during filming. Cary Elwes documented one particular night when the cast gathered at a hotel bar. Andre started ordering pitchers of beer, Elwer wrote. He would pour the entire pitcher into a regular-sized glass and drink it like water. By the end of the evening, Andre had reportedly consumed 156 beers, over 40 gallons of alcohol. What makes this even more astonishing is that Andre never appeared drunk. He didn't even slur a word, Elwes noted. The only evidence of his epic consumption was when Andre eventually passed out in the hotel lobby, where he remained until morning because no one could move him. Hotel staff simply placed velvet ropes around his sleeping form as though he were an exhibit. Wallace Shawn was convinced he was getting fired every day. The actor behind the scheming Vizzini wasn't just playing an insecure character, he was genuinely terrified throughout production. When Wallace Shawn accepted the role of the Sicilian criminal mastermind, he discovered something that sent him into a spiral of anxiety. Rob Reiner had originally wanted Danny DeVito for the part. "I was in a state of absolute constant terror," Shawn later admitted. What viewers don't realize is that Shawn believed each day would be his last on set. Convinced the director regretted casting him and was just waiting for an excuse to replace him with DeVito. This paranoia reached such heights that Shawn struggled to sleep during filming. The irony is that this underlying anxiety actually enhanced his performance as the high-strung, paranoid Vizzini. His nervousness during the iconic Battle of Wits scene wasn't entirely acting. It was a man genuinely fearing his career was hanging by a thread with each delivery of inconceivable. Robin Wright almost lost the role for a devastating reason. The perfect Buttercup nearly slipped away. Not because of acting ability, but because of a heartbreaking ultimatum. After extensive casting searches across both America and England, Robin Wright emerged as the clear choice for Princess Buttercup. What audiences never knew was that her casting nearly collapsed at the last minute. Wright was starring in the soap opera Santa Barbara at the time, and the show's producers refused to release her for filming. They basically told her she had to choose, Reiner revealed. They said if she took our movie, she would be fired from the show permanently. For a young actress, the steady paycheck of a soap opera versus a quirky film with uncertain prospects presented an agonizing decision. Wright took the gamble on The Princess Bride, effectively risking her entire career. The studio executives at Santa Barbara followed through on their threat, firing her, a devastating blow that turned into a blessing when the film cemented her as a major talent. The sword fights took months of grueling training. The greatest sword fight in modern history wasn't just choreographed, it was forged through blood and sweat. What audiences don't realize is that Cary Elwes and Mandy Patinkin trained relentlessly for months before filming began, working with legendary swordmaster Bob Anderson, who had trained everyone from Errol Flynn to the original Darth Vader. Go ahead and like and subscribe because we're about to reveal just how far these actors went to create cinema's most perfect duel. Both men trained for 4 hours daily for nearly 3 months, learning techniques that Olympic fencers spend years mastering. Unlike most films where stunt doubles handle the complex sequences, Elwes and Patinkin performed every move themselves. By the end, Mandy and I could have fenced competitively, Elwes claimed. The dedication became almost obsessive, with both men practicing between takes, during lunch breaks, and even after filming, had wrapped for the day. Their commitment paid off. When you watch the clifftop duel, you're witnessing 2 actors who became legitimate swordsmen to honor their craft.
Return this Westley to his ship?
Yes.
The rodents of unusual size were deadly to their operators. The rodents of unusual size weren't just unconvincing puppets. They were dangerous to their own creators. The massive rat creatures that attack Westley in the fire swamp were actually dwarf performers wearing elaborate rat suits on all fours. What viewers don't see is the genuine suffering happening inside those costumes. The suits were unbearably hot, with internal temperatures reaching over 100 degrees. The performers could only stay in costume for 20 minutes at a time before risking heat stroke. Even more alarmingly, the limited visibility inside the rat heads resulted in multiple injuries when performers ran into set pieces or fell into the artificial quicksand. One of our rat performers actually passed out inside the suit, the film's creature designer recounted. We had to cut him out of it with scissors. The quicksand posed additional dangers, as the performers couldn't see when they were being submerged too deeply. After several near-suffocation incidents, safety divers were positioned off-camera to pull the rat performers to safety if they went under for too long. Christopher Guest accidentally stabbed someone for real. The Six-Fingered Man wasn't just acting as a villain, he accidentally became one. Christopher Guest, playing the cruel Count Rugen, had minimal sword training compared to his co-stars. During the climactic duel between Rugen and Inigo, this inexperience led to a genuine stabbing that sent the stunt coordinator to the hospital. It was a simple parry move, the stunt coordinator later explained, but Christopher misjudged the distance and drove the point right through my hand. Though the swords were dulled for safety, the force of the thrust was enough to puncture skin and tissue. What makes this incident even more unnerving is that filming continued despite the injury. The bloodied stunt coordinator was rushed to emergency care, received stitches, and returned to set the same day to finish the sequence. It added a certain authenticity, he joked afterward. The six-fingered man really did make someone bleed that day. Fred Savage got terribly ill from the kissing scene. The young actor wasn't just disgusted by the kissing, he was genuinely sick. Fred Savage, who played the grandson in the film's framing story, wasn't acting when he complained about the romance between Wesley and Buttercup. As a 10-year-old boy, the concept of kissing scenes genuinely repulsed him. What audiences don't realize is that Savage's revulsion became so severe during filming that he developed a mild fever the day they shot his reaction to the kissing scene. Fred was actually coming down with something, Rob Reiner revealed. We were going to reschedule, but then I realized his flushed face and general discomfort actually worked perfectly for the scene. The irony wasn't lost on the production team. The scene where Savage protests most vigorously about romance was enhanced by actual illness. His delivery of, "They're kissing again. Do we have to read the kissing parts?" carries genuine discomfort that transcended acting, creating one of the film's most charming meta moments. Robin Wright's dress was so heavy. She couldn't stand up. The iconic red dress wasn't just beautiful, it was torturous. The flowing crimson gown that Buttercup wears during her wedding ceremony became one of the film's most recognizable costumes. What viewers never realized was that the dress weighed nearly 50 pounds due to the layers of fabric, beading, and train. "I couldn't move in it," Wright recalled. "Between takes, they would literally have to carry me to a special chair and prop me up because I couldn't sit down in it either." The weight became so problematic that during the wedding scene, hidden supports were built into the set to help Wright remain upright during long takes. The physical toll was considerable. By the end of each day filming in the dress, Wright suffered from back spasms and shoulder pain so severe that a massage therapist was kept on standby. The discomfort actually enhanced her performance. Buttercup's rigid posture and restricted movement weren't acting choices, but physical necessities imposed by her royal wardrobe. The "to the pain" speech almost got cut from the film. The film's most defiant moment wasn't just powerful dialogue, it was a last-minute save. Wesley's famous "to the pain" speech, where he bluffs Prince Humperdinck into surrender despite being too weak to stand, nearly ended up on the cutting room floor. Studio executives reviewing early cuts felt the monologue was too dark for a family film. They wanted it gone completely, Reiner revealed. They said describing cutting off ears and noses was too graphic. What audiences don't know is that the director fought fiercely to preserve the speech, arguing it was essential to Wesley's character arc and the film's unique balance of tones. The compromise came in the form of reaction shots. By focusing more on Humperdinck's increasing horror rather than on Wesley's graphic descriptions, Reiner managed to keep the dialogue intact while softening its impact. This battle over a single scene exemplifies how close the film came to losing many of its most memorable moments to studio interference.
I would not say such things if I were you.
The farm boy costume caused Cary Elwes excruciating pain. Wesley's simple outfit wasn't just authentic period clothing, it was a medieval torture device. The simple farm boy costume that Cary Elwes wears at the beginning of the film was made from genuine rough-spun wool for historical accuracy. What viewers don't see is that the authentic material caused Elwes severe skin irritation that worsened with each take. "It felt like being wrapped in fiberglass," Elwes later described. "By the end of the first day, my entire torso was covered in a rash." The costume department tried various solutions, including lining the costume with softer material, but this altered the way the outfit hung on his frame, making it look wrong on camera. The actor ultimately chose authenticity over comfort, enduring the painful rash throughout filming of his farm scenes. This dedication extended to refusing modern undergarments that might have provided relief, but would have created visible lines under the costume. Elwes's suffering for his art took method acting to uncomfortable new heights, Fezzik's rhymes were originally much more elaborate and vulgar. Andre's gentle giant wasn't just casually poetic, he was supposed to be a foul-mouthed Shakespeare. In Goldman's original novel, Fezzik's rhyming habit is far more developed, constant, and often hilariously inappropriate. What viewers don't realize is that early script drafts maintained this aspect of the character, with Andre set to deliver complex rhyming monologues throughout the film. "We had pages of rhymes," Reiner confessed, "some brilliant, some profane, but Andre struggled with the memorization." Given that English was not Andre's first language, he was native French-speaking, the elaborate wordplay presented an insurmountable challenge. His physical pain also impacted his concentration. The production gradually simplified Fezzik's dialogue, preserving the rhyming character trait, but reducing its complexity. Many of Andre's lines were shortened or eliminated entirely, fundamentally altering a character that Goldman had envisioned as verbally dexterous despite his imposing size. The change represents one of the most significant departures from the source material. The film was nearly shelved completely after test screenings. The beloved classic wasn't just commercially disappointing at first, it was considered a total failure. After initial test screenings, The Princess Bride received such mixed reactions that Columbia Pictures executives seriously considered shelving the film entirely, releasing it directly to VHS without a proper theatrical run. They had no idea how to market it, Reiner explained. The test audiences were confused. The older viewers thought it was too silly, and they assumed kids wouldn't follow the narrative structure. What audiences never knew was that the studio drastically reduced the marketing budget as a result, effectively burying a film they'd already given up on. The marketing confusion became apparent in the theatrical poster, which downplayed the comedy and adventure aspects in favor of selling it as a straightforward fairy tale romance. This fundamental misunderstanding of the film's appeal contributed to its modest box office performance, earning just $30.9 million against its $16 million budget. Respectable, but nowhere near the cultural phenomenon it would later become. The grandfather was almost played by a Hollywood legend. The kind narrator wasn't just a supporting role, it was meant for cinematic royalty. Peter Falk's performance as the grandfather reading the story to his sick grandson provides the film's emotional anchor. What most viewers don't realize is that this role was originally offered to legendary actor Laurence Olivier. "Olivier was our first choice," Reiner admitted. "He loved the script, but his health was failing." The iconic actor, then 80 years old and suffering from various ailments, ultimately couldn't commit to the project, opening the door for Falk's casting, a decision that now seems impossible to imagine differently. The near casting adds a fascinating layer to the film's identity. Olivier, known for his Shakespearean gravitas, would have given the narration a different quality entirely, more theatrical and less warmly sardonic than Falk's approach. This casting change represents one of cinema's great what-if scenarios, potentially altering the entire emotional texture of a beloved classic.
Became friends. And then it happened.
What?
William Goldman couldn't watch the torture scene. The novelist wasn't just supportive of the adaptation, he was traumatized by it. William Goldman, who wrote both the original novel and the screenplay, had a surprising reaction when watching the finished film. During the scene where Wesley is tortured in the pit of despair, Goldman reportedly had to leave the theater. Bill couldn't handle it, Reiner revealed years later. He created this character, lived with him for years while writing the book, and seeing him tortured was too much. What makes this reaction particularly ironic is that Goldman himself wrote both versions of the scene. Yet the visualization of his own words proved unexpectedly disturbing. The novelist's emotional connection to his characters transformed what audiences experience as a relatively mild torture scene by modern standards into something genuinely upsetting for its creator. This rare glimpse into an author's relationship with their fiction reveals how the transition from page to screen can create emotional impacts that transcend creative control. The perfect ending wasn't just satisfying, it was an act of defiance. The film's conclusion, Coruscant with the grandfather finishing the story and leaving his grandson with "as you wish," provides a perfectly understated emotional resolution. What no one knew until decades later was that Columbia Pictures executives demanded a completely different ending. They wanted something flashier, Reiner revealed in a 2017 interview. They actually insisted we film an epilogue showing Wesley and Buttercup's wedding, with the grandfather bringing the grandson to attend it. It was supposed to merge the two narrative worlds and end with a big celebration. Reiner fought this idea with rare determination, threatening to walk away entirely if forced to shoot the alternate ending. It would have destroyed everything the film was trying to say about storytelling and imagination, he explained. The studio eventually backed down, allowing the more subtle conclusion to remain. This battle represents how close The Princess Bride came to losing the very qualities that made it a timeless classic rather than just another fairy tale adaptation. The Princess Bride wasn't just a film that found its audience eventually. It was a story that redefined what cult classics could become, from initial theatrical disappointment to becoming one of the most quoted, beloved, and influential fantasy films ever made. Its journey mirrors the unlikely adventures of its characters. What began as a studio afterthought, poorly marketed and nearly shelved, transformed into cultural shorthand. Inconceivable, As You Wish, and Hello, My Name is Inigo Montoya haven't just remained in the lexicon for decades, they've crossed generations, with parents introducing children to a film that defied categorization and expectations. If you enjoyed these bizarre behind-the-scenes facts, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and remember, anyone who says otherwise is selling something.